Thanks for joining us. So we've got lots to cover, but let me introduce us. My name is Kristen Howerton. I write the blog Rage Against the Minivan.
And I'm Paul Martin. I write the blog Paula Sophia.
I am a Democrat and Paul is a Republican, and during this election season we're attempting to have a civil debate about politics each week.
We have been civil.
We've been very civil.
I've been harassed for how civil we've been.
I haven't been. I think it's because Republicans are so angry. Is that civil?
Ooh, we jump right in.
It's probably because Republicans are like hotheads and.
Well, I will say that generally speaking, it would. I don't want to say it. It just Republicans generally seem to hate Democrats more. Like I get in a lot of trouble with. It seems like with Republicans more, though I'm a tried and true Republican. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Interesting.
Just a lot of Republicans I know just. They want me to hate Barack Obama for everything he's ever done and been.
Yeah,
and
I observed that. In fact, I was in a conversation last night with a Republican, and he said, you know, Barack really has had an exemplary presidency. And I was like, really? You're going to admit that?
Yeah.
But, I mean, I don't know why that would be difficult. I mean, I feel like I can look at Republican presidents who...
Yeah. I think one of the first times I remember us ever talking was about that very topic.
I think you're right. Yes, the inability to, like, the kind of demonization, global demonization of anyone on the other side. Yes.
Like Obama ordered the killing of Osama bin Laden. Had those stealth bombers crashed, he would be lambasted by Republicans for messing up that rescue. Yeah. But they got bin Laden, and most Republicans I know will say, well, that was all George Bush. It had nothing to do with Barack Obama.
Yeah.
So I'm just more willing to say, wow, as the commander-in-chief, man, he must have been sweating bullets sitting watching this operation that he ordered.
Seriously.
So anyway,
that could have
I'm willing to give him credit for something.
Yeah.
Like things.
A few things.
Although
I have to laugh because yesterday I was stuck in traffic in LA because Barack Obama was in town. And I was able to use hashtag thanks Obama non-ironically. I was annoyed. All right, let's dive into this week. So some interesting stuff happened in the Hillary campaign. So Bill Clinton was speaking, I think it was a fundraiser, I'm not entirely sure, but he was speaking to a crowd for the Hillary campaign. There were some Black Lives Matter protesters there. They were calling out, they were, asking questions, and he got a little testy. Did you see this?
I've heard a bit. Tell me more.
So, they were asking questions in regards to some of Hillary's statements back during the, in the late 80s, early 90s, where she had sort of demonized this idea of like these super criminals, lacking in empathy, drug lords who are, turning children into killing machines, and just used some language that just wasn't accurate and was really sort of, again, like demonizing inner city Black people. And he kind of reverted to that narrative. And he, I have to say, there's two things. There's what he said, but then there was also his tone. Which I think is important. And his tone was just incredibly condescending. And there was kind of this like, come at me, bro, like you want to talk about this, let me, white-splain, mansplain to you about the whole situation.
Right.
So I definitely felt that coming from him. And, to me...
And was it a closed setting? Was he in a kind of living room format?
No, it was a hall, like a large setting. Yeah. But to me, I really truly feel like in this political climate, I don't even want to say political climate, in the racial climate that we're living in right now, which is valid and real, when Black Lives Matter activists are asking you questions, they should be treated with respect, and their questions should be treated with respect. And I didn't think he extended respect. And then, when then you look at the content of what he was saying, I felt that he, again, reverted back to that narrative of like, they're making 13-year-olds go and kill. Like, I don't know, as if, there are massively complex issues, obviously, in the inner city and with drug dealers, but I think to paint this brush of like, these are subhuman, lacking in empathy individuals.
And they were referring to his comment in the 90s?
Yeah.
So do you think, I don't know, there are many presidents in the last few decades that have done more for the African community than Bill Clinton, right? He's and Hillary, they're adored, generally speaking. But there were those comments in the 90s, and I remember some of them. Do you think some of his defensiveness would be kind of in the, hey, what the heck? I've gotten 85% of the African American vote when I ran. Suddenly I'm like, how?
I think it's a generational thing, and I can't. You know what? I mean, I would really be interested to hear from the Black community on this, because I'm guessing,
right,
and not wanting to speak on their behalf, but I feel that there is a generational difference, and I think that, you know, back in the day when Clinton had that high approval rating with African Americans, like I think that was, you know, his generation.
Right.
And I think that younger Black people are just a little more aware of systemic racism, and that, you know, being down and having Black friends does not mean that you are addressing, like, not being a racist doesn't mean you're addressing systemic racism, and people are clued into that. I think young people are clued into that.
Yeah, seems like it.
Yeah.
Wow. So, and then you have Bernie Sanders, and you have this race on the left, which we were poo-pooing, and it was not a big deal 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And suddenly you have Sanders winning, 7 out of 8 contests or something like that?
7 out of 8. And look at us, we're finally, we're really talking about the Democratic Party this week. We don't have that much to say about Trump, thankfully, finally. But there was a little...
Oh, yes, we will.
Okay.
A bit.
There was a little brouhaha between Sanders and Clinton, because he said...
Yeah, she made a comment. I don't remember the exact comment, but the basic idea was, it was a jab at his idealism. So the big, if you haven't been following it, the big difference between Hillary and Bernie is that Hillary is a pragmatist. She is priding herself as someone who is a turtle. She's just going to slog along. She's going to be faithful. She's going to get stuff done pragmatically. Sanders is talking in a very populist message. You know, wage disparity, the income disparity is crazy, and he's been accused by many people of just not having any practical solutions. This is great. Wage disparities the gap is as great as it's ever been, but what are you going to do?
Yeah.
And so she made some comment, some jab at his idealism, and he fired back with, she's not qualified to be president, citing the Iraq War, which is kind of a big deal, and she supported it, obviously.
It's a big deal.
And also, I think her Wall Street connections, if I remember correctly, or trade deals. How she's allowed China and these other countries just to free trade. And then there was a lot of press yesterday about, I mean, there aren't many people, whether you like her or not, much more qualified than Hillary Clinton in terms of a resume.
And I'm not a Hillary Clinton fan, and you're not either, but I think we would both have to agree she's qualified.
Absolutely.
I think that's the wrong word. I mean, I think he may not like her policies, but not liking someone's policies does not disqualify them from...
Right.
Now, I think Trump is not qualified because he lacks experience.
Right, but playing devil's advocate for the Trump supporters, and you all know I'm not a Trump supporter, many people are saying the very problem is qualified politicians. We need somebody who is, so to speak, unqualified that will go and shake things up. And it's just the most ridiculous idea, I think. If that's the case, then why not have a 21-year-old kid who's got straight A's? He's going to have a really outside perspective, or she's going to have a really outside perspective. So let's have a 1-year-old kid run the country. But anyway. I
mean, I think I want to address, though, this criticism that Sanders is too idealistic, that his message is, too populist, and, he won't actually achieve. I think most of us are realistic enough to know that that is probably true. Is he going to achieve every one of his goals? Probably not. But I think most of us are hopeful that he can move the needle just enough to really make a big difference. And I think that was true of Obama as well. I mean, was he able to usher in all of the changes he hoped for? He really wasn't.
Yeah.
But I think he did a pretty good job of, pushing the needle a little bit. I don't think Sanders will be able to enact everything he hopes, but I think he'll be able to make some changes.
Yeah. And he is speaking into, I think people on the left and the right are clearly frustrated with, the job situation. But the problem I have with people like Trump or Sanders is much of the issue with unemployment and underemployment, and I don't want to get too policy oriented, I don't know enough about policy, but it's because of the tech era that we're living in.
Yeah.
We have machines making stuff.
Yes.
We have machines answering the phone. We have machines, computers selling stuff, and automation happening. And so we don't have the same playing field in 2016 as we did in 2006. And so much of the reason we have underemployment and unemployment is just because of the tech industry. It's not as simple as we need to get more jobs, we need to bring back manufacturing. It's just not that simple. And that's sometimes why I struggle with just this simplistic idea of we need to make America great again, or with wage disparity. I'm totally on board with Sanders. I think it's a huge problem. I don't think our founders ever imagined that CEOs would be making hundreds of thousands of dollars, times more money than the guy schlopping the stuff for it's $8 an hour.
Yeah, it's becoming like royalty and serfs at some level. Yeah. So Cruz won Wisconsin, and that I think is raising a lot of questions about a contested convention. Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, it seems like it. So about a month or two ago, Politico did a kind of a survey with 100 insiders as to what they thought the possibilities of a contested convention was. Yeah. Which the whole contested convention thing is really simple, although it seems complicated. It's really not that complicated. And today they had an article, and 90% of this group, and these are real political insiders, said there is going to be a contested convention. Mathematically, it's really mathematically it's very hard for Donald Trump to get 1,237 delegates.
It's looking unlikely at this point, actually. Yeah, so then what happens? What does a contested convention look like?
Yeah, I mean, it's simple. We have people that are delegates, right? Yeah. And each state sends delegates to Cleveland in July, and these people need to vote. But if they show up on the 18th and there isn't somebody with 1,237 delegates, well, then you do not have a winner.
Right.
That happened in 1974 with Gerald Ford.
No kidding.
Yeah. But it wasn't contested because on the first ballot, so the first ballot is just, all right, delegates, vote.
Right.
Ford had 1,237. It might have been fewer back then, I don't know. But Ford had the majority and it was over. Right. But in this convention, here's kind of one of the nuances. So each state has delegates, right? North Carolina, South Carolina, Illinois, they have delegates. They have people that go and vote.
Right.
Some of those delegates, because it's based on state rules, right, are they're called, I forgot the name now. They're bonded. They're not bonded. They have to vote for, in this case,
the person that.
Yeah. So in say South Carolina, those delegates have to vote for the person who won South Carolina. Yeah. I don't know if it's South Carolina, but in any case, but in other states they're not bound. It's bound. And so right now there is a complete assault on the unbound delegates of the states that have already voted. Sure. And Cruz beat Trump to that punch by about 2 months. Okay. So Cruz, being way more shrewd as a politician, being a politician, I mean, they were literally taking these people out to lunch. I'm sure. And so anyway, if in the first ballot in Cleveland, if nobody gets 1,237, which is very likely that no one will get 1,237, then it goes to a second ballot. Wow. In the second ballot, all those bound delegates aren't bound anymore. Interesting. So then it just becomes
so that's very likely.
It's very likely.
Yeah. That's interesting.
It is. I mean, it's going to be, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, it's not just that it's a contested convention, but it's Donald Trump. It's the values that he's brought in. Yeah. There are just a lot, like we said last time, there are a lot of issues that are part of this election that are just super unique. I mean, remember 4 years ago, it was Mitt Romney versus Barack Obama. There just wasn't a lot there.
No. Those are two much more boring people. All right, so what do we have coming down the pipe? We've got finally the Clinton and Sanders debate.
New York, the big New York primary.
April 14th is the debate. When is the New York primary?
Oh, gosh, no, it's a little bit further.
A little further out, okay.
I forget those dates.
It'll be interesting.
Yeah.
All right, that's it for today. Hook us up with your comments. These will be posted on both of our blogs, and check us out next week to see what else is going on.
Yep. See you then.